There are three great religions throughout the world that are known as monotheistic faiths. There is Islam, there is Judaism, and Christianity. These three faiths have been widely recognized as having a more mature, superior view in terms of their understanding of God and the world around us. They recognize that there is one supreme God who rules over all things. Now, there have, of course, been other religions and other points of view. There are the polytheists who believe that there are many gods around the world, and these separate gods need to be worshipped, served, appeased in a variety of ways. So polytheism has had a major impact upon the world. Think of Hinduism in particular, but also the animist faiths in Africa. But the monotheistic faiths have stood opposed to all forms of polytheism, or at least initially one would think that. And on the other side, they stand opposed to the concepts of atheism, those who deny that there is any God whatsoever. Standing between these two, however, monotheism has come under criticism of late in academic circles, particularly those forms of monotheism which claimed some sort of exclusiveness, which claimed that they alone have the right understanding of God and that the other points of view are false, that perhaps even have the temerity to call other religions idolatry. In the philosophy of religion, the sciences of religion, monotheism is being broken down into two major categories. One might call them exclusive monotheism. The monotheism that says that this God alone is God. And then there is this new conception of an inclusive monotheism. A monotheism which says that yes, there is one divine God, one major spirit in charge of all things, but that doesn't deny the fact that there are other gods in the world. An odd form of monotheism, to be sure, but inclusive monotheism. Some describe it as henotheism, where there is one supreme God who does not deny the presence of other gods, but there is one supreme God that governs a tribe or a group or a people. God's people have always been confronted with these two sides, the polytheists on the one hand, and then certainly atheists on the other. And indeed, monotheists who serve one God but not the true God. From the very earliest times, God has revealed himself in the Garden of Eden to Adam and Eve as the true God. And from that time on, God has a people to whom he has revealed himself as alone the true God. When we follow the history of this people, particularly as they enter the land of Canaan and form a nation there in Canaan, we are confronted by the challenge of polytheism. The Canaanites had many gods. They worshipped the Baals and the Ashtoreths. They worshipped a wide variety of things, the moon, the stars, and so forth. And so the history of Israel was oftentimes a history of conflict between the faith in Yahweh, given through Moses, and the Canaanite gods, or the gods of the nations surrounding them. When we come to the time of Isaiah the prophet, there has been a decline in the religion of Israel. There has been, first of all, in the northern tribes, a syncretism, where the northern tribes tried to blend together Yahweh, the faith of Moses, if you will, with the Canaanite gods. Remember, they built altars with a bull and said, "This is your God, this is Yahweh." Much like Aaron built the bull in the wilderness. It was a syncretism, a merging But then there was also the various Canaanite gods under King Ahab that Ahab tried to introduce, particularly his wife Jezebel, who was a foreign woman. So, in the time of Isaiah, around 730 BC, he's facing this onslaught of polytheism throughout the land. And Isaiah rises up to stand opposed to these things and reasserts the truth, the fundamental truth, that there is only one God, the Lord God Almighty. And that all the other gods that were proliferating throughout Israel were false gods. So Isaiah begins his covenant lawsuit with Israel, charging them with failure to worship the true God faithfully and by following after false gods. Our text has one of Isaiah's arguments with his own people. He is addressing the elect, God's chosen people within the national Israel, and trying to give them a word of encouragement. He's doing this in the context of certain prophecies that have already been given. Earlier, Isaiah has foretold the advance of the Assyrian armies to the north, taking over the northern tribes of Israel. And then he also went on to talk about how the Babylonians will come and take over the southern tribes. And so Isaiah is foreseeing God's judgments on the land. Now he wants to give an address to God's elect, who must suffer in the course of these things. And he instructs them with regard to the promises of hope that God has for his people. That though they must go into exile in Babylon for a period of time, God will bring them up from that exile. And so the second half of Isaiah, chapters 40 through 66, foretell a time in the future when God will bring his people back from exile and replant them in his land. Now, why does Isaiah bring all this to our attention? It's because he's contrasting the living God, the true God, with the gods who the people were worshiping all around them. He's engaged in an apologetic. He's arguing with them, and he's showing the distinction between the living God, who speaks and acts in time and history, and the false gods, who have to be constructed by their own people and can do nothing to help